Alrighty, welcome back to another lesson of basic moves for DCS World. Today I thought we'd look at something a little bit more complex, but not hard, not difficult. AI dispatching, or basically just getting AI to do stuff. So what we want to do is set up a EWR network. We want the AI to use that EWR network to detect threats, and we want it to dispatch a CAP flight to protect the vehicles we had over rota, and then also run some GCI. So let's have a look at that now. We'll jump straight into the mission editor, and you'll remember last time we were set up some ground vehicles to spawn on rota. We've got our ships that we set up, the Tarawa group, making its way through the passage there. And the only thing I've done since then is I've started to frame up how I think this mission is going to work. And so I'm going to make Saipan and Tinian as red, so they're already been captured. They're working on rota at the moment, and they're making their way to Guam, and we're going to defend it and destroy a lot of stuff on rota. So that's sort of the basic sort of theme to the mission. And then to do that, I want the red forces to try and stop us achieving our goals. So the first thing we're going to look at is just where the AI dispatcher is located on the Moose classes guide. So if we jump in to the classes guide now, and I've gone straight into the Moose website that took me to the classes guide, and opened the hamburger menu. AI dispatcher is up here, and you can see it says manages the process of automatic air-to-air defense systems based on the EWI network targets and coordinating CAP and GCI. Perfect, that's what we want to do. Now there's some other things here, which is the actual how the CAP runs, and you can get some really good ideas to make your CAP do things. And we'll briefly touch on that, and also GCI. So all of those air-to-air AI GCI tie into dispatcher, CAP into dispatcher, and you also have an air-to-ground dispatcher as well, but that's outside the scope of what we're talking about now and what we want to achieve. So let's just jump into the air-to-air dispatcher, and once again, everything you need is here. A link to the mission, which we will open, and I've actually got it in the next tab ready to go, that we're going to hijack to edit for our purposes. It's worth having a read of this just to get your head around how it all works. And then there's a really good description, because we get a lot of questions about how this works down here. Now you can run through all this and it'll explain it, or you can keep watching and we'll look at the order we're going to add things. So let's just jump over to the sample mission that we've taken out of the Moose missions. And if I jump in here, you can see we've got AID, AI dispatching, that's what we want. So I'll click on that. And we've got air-to-air, AI air-to-air dispatching. Perfect. And we'll go straight into the sound check, the lure itself. And here's the code that has been already written to do stuff. Now, we're not going to do all of this, and we're going to do things a bit slightly different. However, there's some things that we really want out of here. So the first thing you need to start with when you're dispatching is you need to start with a detection group. So you need some way of the AI detecting you or your mates as you're flying into the area. So we're going to have to define what they're using to detect. So I thought, given where they are here, the chances of them popping an AWACS on here are pretty remote. They might fly one in, but I think we'll just use an EWR system up on Saipan, and we'll use some shipping as their detection for this AO. So we can hijack this bit here where it says local detection set group and some filters, and start filter, we'll hijack that bit. We'll also hijack this detection down here, and we'll talk about this in a second, but just grab the whole lot and we will copy that, and then we're going to paste it into our own Lua file. So if I bring up our Lua now, I've already started. So I've same way of creating a source file, and I've named it Moose Lessons GCI and CAP because that's what we want to achieve. And I've cut and paste into here, and I've already started renaming them. We looked at that in previous lessons. So I'm going to call it REWR for Red EWR and R Navy for Red Navy. So they're the prefixes it will filter for to determine what it's using to detect us as we're flying in. Okay, and then here, defined locally, is the detection red, which is a new detection area, which is using detection set group, which we just defined here, and it is using a distance of 15,000 meters. So what that's doing is taking any group or any unit within 15,000 meters of another one will be considered a single group for detection purpose. If they're outside that, they'll split it up into two groups. So if you and your wingman are flying along at 5,000 meter spread, you'll be considered one group. If you're outside 15,000 meters, you will be considered two groups. And the response would be, for the AI would do, is to two groups, not one. So that's what that distance is defining. And then we're going to create the dispatcher itself. So air-to-air dispatcher red. That's what we're going to call our dispatcher for the rest of the script, is air-to-air dispatcher new, and it's going to use detection red, which is what we defined here as our detection area. Now, borders. So you'll see if we jump back into the Moose classes guide and have a look there, we have a section here about engage airborne friendlies within engage range, and there's a bit down here about defender borders, right? So defend own border. So we can define a border where they'll cap quite happily over here on the red side, and unless we cross that border, they won't engage us. So generally for a server mission, that's pretty much what you want to have. Otherwise it turns into all-out chaos, because it'll be purely based on detection. Obviously, if we look at the size of our mission editor, you can see, just looking at the distances we're talking about, 40 miles, they're going to pick you up taking off out of Guam, and that cap flight's going to move straight in here and engage you as you're getting airborne. So that's not what we want. We want a bit of a border. So we're going to define a border area to prevent them coming down into our safe territory here in Guam. Obviously, we'd be putting down SAM networks and doing all sorts of stuff, but we'll look at that at another stage. So at the moment, we just want to get a cap over rotor, a detection group set up. So back to our script again. Just jump out of the editor and into, I've put a, I've called it red border zone, so equals a zone poly new. Now, this can be all this information about how you define this. You'll see it in these scripts that have been in the demo missions, and it's basically using a single unit to define a polygon, and it's going to look for that group name, and there it is, find by name, and I'm going to call it ADIS for Air Defense Interdiction Zone. And then air dispatcher red, which we've defined up here, it's going to set border zone. So we want to set the border zone, and we're going to set this red border zone. So that's what it's going to be looking for. Any unit crossing the red border zone, it will consider that hostile, and as long as it's detected, it'll engage it. Righto, so that's the basis of setting up. We've got our detection set group, and we define how that's going to work. and then we define a dispatcher and what detection set group it's using, this detection red here, and then we create a border to give it some sort of boundaries so it's not all an all-out war. And now we're going to add some squadrons, and this is where it becomes really interesting, because to add a squadron I only have to add a single unit and define it in the mission editor, and that will be a squadron, and we can decide how many aircraft it's got. So there's a couple of things we need to do first. This first thing is we want this detection to work, so let's put our units down. We need a red EWR, so let's jump back into the mission editor. Right, and why don't we place it here on Tinian, and preferably somewhere reasonably high. So let's have a look at the map here. We want to get it down on the end of the island here somewhere. All right, and you want it somewhere where it's got good observation, so they get a decent gale. We might pop it up in here. All right, so we need to put down a ground unit, and we're going to put down an EWR. So ground unit, China, or combined joint task forces red is probably better. Now we're going to call it, we knew from our script, if we have a look at that, and we know that it was called REWR, all in uppercase, and then anything Navy that's going to feed into this network is going to be called RNavy. All right, so let's get back into the editor and set those up. Okay, so we'll call it R red EWR, and in the unit name, we'll drop that in there and made it RWR1, but that's okay because it's only going to filter a prefix. Now, an amphibious vehicle isn't going to make a good EWR, so we don't want armor, we want air defense, and we want to put down your EWR station. So why don't we put down, where are we? I haven't used one of those. Let's have a look. What does it look like? Yeah, perfect. All right, we'll pop that down, and it's defined red EWR. Now we can make that all pretty, put a few units around it and some protection and that, but we don't need to. We're just looking at how we script here, not how we design a core mission. Okay, so we've got our EWR put down, and now we want a Navy vessel down here also supporting. So let's drop a ship in, and again, this one wants to be our Navy. That way it'll work with our script. Okay, and let's pick and there we are. What about a Type 71 amphibious transport dock? That would be something they would have if they're running an amphibious assault on rotor. We'll have that just sitting off the coast here somewhere. Righto, and it could be facing that way. And let's add another ship in to give it some protection. And we'll put a 52C destroyer in there with it. Okay, so both those units now have a prefix of our Navy. So they'll both be used for detection. All right, and I've purposely put them just for mission design on this side of the island. So we've got a bit of shelter coming up here from the detection. So at low level, potentially you could sneak in here and kill things and then disappear. Right. So we got that in. So there's our detection set group. They're defined in the mission and they're defined in the script. Now, if we bring the script back up again, you can see we had our border zone, red border zone. We called it ADIS. Right, so let's define that now. So, and it's all uppercase as well. Now, it depends how you want to do this. We could dive in here and just make the ADIS anything that crosses halfway between Rota and Guam, but we're going to run our ships through here, right? So, and that with those ships, that's probably not a very smart idea because they're going to engage each other. We might run our ships back this way. Right, there we go. What we can do is just grab, I normally use a helicopter because you don't really see them sitting around the ocean too often. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just the name we want, and we're going to call it ADIS. Okay, and that's the unit name, but to avoid issues, I always name the unit the same. It's the group name you need for defining this, but anyway, because that's the zone poly group and it's looking for a group. But sometimes it's just a good habit to just get to name the unit name or the pilot name the same. Just there are some other scripts that you use that require the actual unit name, like the EWA we just defined. So if we drop that in here and we give it a route to define our border. So we'll make the border run about here and down there and to there. Righto. Now that's our ADIS. Now the only thing, unless you want a helicopter moving along here and your border getting smaller, you want to make sure it's late activated. Okay, so we're not going to activate it, it's just to define the border. All right, so there's our border. If you wanted to get right into it, you could actually draw your border using the new draw tool in the mission editor along there, call it ADIS, and have it displayed to blue forces for your mission, but we won't bother. All right, now we've got that set. Everything we have defined in our mission or in our script is sitting in the mission ready to go. Now it's not much good if it's got nothing to dispatch. So we need to now have a look at dispatching things. Righto. I'll just keep that saved, and if we jump back into the classes guide and drop down, you can see we get down here and it starts talking about squadrons. Now this will give you a really good thing about grouping aircraft in squadrons, squadron overhead, i.e. how many aircraft is it going to dispatch to tackle a threat. So that's where you'll define all these things, and I'm going to grab a whole heap of them and we'll talk about them. Here's setting up a squadron. So the dispatcher we've created, we're going to set squadron, where it's located, or what it's called. The actual squadron is going to be called, and then where it's located, and then the unit in the mission editor that defines it, and then how many units are in that squadron. So we define the size of the squadron. So that's how we're going to set our squadrons. So to cut to the chase, let's jump to a bit of script that I can poach, and I will grab it out of another one of my script that I use on our public server actually, and we'll define those squadrons. So let's bring up our Notepad++ again. And I'll make that a bit bigger while we start doing this. Right. Okay, so our next stage is to define our squadrons. Okay. All right. Define squadrons for GCI CAP. And I just poached out of another script. There they are. So, air-to-air dispatcher red, which is the dispatcher we've defined, set squadron. And so I've got 33 air defense, 14 air defense. I got at Saipan International, and we're going to change this one, and we are going to make this Saipan International, because we could put it at Tinian, but why don't we do that? We'll put it at Tinian. Okay. Now this, I'd actually had this as a ship, so you can actually define a carrier as a base for the squadron. So if you like, you can name your carrier whatever it may be, and you put that name in here. As long as it's an aircraft carrier, that'll become a base for your squadron. So in our server mission, I had the People's Liberation Army Navy carrier in there, but in this case we're going to use Tinian. So let's a really important thing when you're doing this, just pop into this mission editor quickly. You can define, when you define the name of an airfield, you want to make sure that what you are defining is actually the name of the airfield. So it's exactly the way it's written here, okay, or there, and the case is important. All right, so let's jump in, and it's Tinian International, and we will back into the mission editor, back into our Notepad++. And Tinian International can go in there. So it's capital T, Tinian, and then it's capital INTL, International. Okay, so we've defined where our two squadrons are going to be based. We'll make this something other than J11s. What about we make them JAFs? All right, and there we go. And how many they're going to have? Well, it's a bit excessive. We'll say they've got 14 on the ground in Saipan, and they've got 12 on the ground in Tinian. All right, so our dispatcher is going to use these two squadrons to do GCI and do CAP, but we need to tell it what squadrons are going to do which. So back into the mission editor, let's set our squadrons up. So if we dive back in there, and I always put the squadrons, you can put them anywhere you like on the map. You can have them all down the side here, but it just gets for a little bit confusing if you have them all down the side here, which ones relate to which air bases. I always just put them near the air bases. So near Saipan, just off the airfield, so you know it's not a static or something. I drop in an aircraft unit, and from my script, I might just show you this because you've got to know which one you're looking at. Notepad++. That's what we're calling it. I can call that anything, but this bit, this template, remember with the curly brackets, we've got a template here. That is exactly what the unit needs to be called, the group needs to be called that you're defining. So the group that we're defining in the editor has to be called that. If you want to have a different loadout, you can just add another one like that and another. They can have all different loadouts depending to randomize it a bit, and that's how, getting back into randomization. So it's important that you call it that. So Control C that out and jump back into the editor. And we've got one as well called -1 as well, so -1. So we'll make 2 of them here, and we'll call this one 33AD, and we'll just pop it here off the airfield. Okay, 33AD, and get rid of the -1 on that. And we set exactly how we want it to be. We don't want a A10, we wanted a J11 for these. I don't know. And there you go, 33AD. And we will give them a loadout. So when you're picking these loadouts, it's important to think about your mission and the people who are going to fly it and how challenging you want to make it. Because once these AI get intercepting you, it can get pretty hectic. And if you give them a solid punch, it can get quite overwhelming. So something to have to think about it. So we'll make this one reasonably serious, and we will make the next one not so serious. So randomly you could end up with one that just doesn't have the reach the others. Makes the mission more interesting as well. So there's our first one we've got in. Important to make it late activated because we don't want it sitting on the grass there trying to taxi. It's just going to be called by the script. Righto. And let's copy and paste him down again to create the second version in the template. And it's been called 33AD-1, 33AD-1, and I'll get rid of second dash just so it's the same. And we said we're going to give it a different loadout, so let's do that, and we'll just give it some R73s and some ECM. There we go. All right, so there's our Saipan squadron defined in the script and now defined in the editor. Now that's all you have to do for the squadron. Both late activated, and they just sit there. Righto. Keep it simple. We'll cut and paste again down at Tinian. And this son, we said we're going to make a JF17, and we'll leave them all as veteran. They're fine like that. And from our script, this one was called 14 air defense. And we'll make this 14 AD as well. Now you can get carried away and give them different skins and whatever you like with each template, that's fine. And the loadout. This one reasonably potent as well. There we go, with a bit of range. Time to sit out there capping. There we are. All right, and they're ready and late activated. All right, let's copy and paste him. Drop another one down. There we go. Hang on. Get rid of that one. Copy and paste this one. And drop it down. There we go. All right, 14AD-1. That's what our script was called for our Tinian squadron. And we give him just a slightly different loadout. That's all we have to do. And I want to just get rid of that -1 just for conformity. That I have to, but anyway, I do. And we'll put this one up with just a couple of tanks, and yeah, that's perfect. Some PL5s, done. All right, and he's late activated. All right, there we go. So our squadrons are defined and ready to roll. And we've got our border defined. And now we have to give them somewhere where we want them to cap and decide whether they're going to fly GCI. So let's grab another bit of script out and we'll chuck that into our let's have a quick look. Okay, so we're going to set a cap. Well, let's set GCI first. How about we set GCI? So you can go straight back into the Moose Classes guide, and it'll tell you that to set GCI, it's set Squadron GCI, and then you give it some speed parameters that they'll operate in. So I've grabbed some out of another script to speed things up, copy and paste, and then I'm going to dump that in here and tidy it up. Okay, so I'm going to call this set up GCI with 2 of those to comment it out. Okay, now we don't have a 1/25th AD. We're using the 14 AD. So there we go, get rid of those. All right, so both squadrons will fly GCI if we set it like that, or I can decide that I only want one of them and I'll just delete this. But let's have both squadrons capable of flying GCI, but I'm only going to have one squadron capping, and I think I'll use the Jeffs to cap, just because of the closeness of the AO, and give us half a chance now, Harrier. Right, so I'll grab some more script over here, and we said we wanted the 14 AD to cap. Righto, so here we go. I've got some script handy, and we are going to define set up cap for 14 AD. Now we're going to have a talk about this and what it all means. In the GCI tab here, we've defined Squadron GCI, we've defined the squadron here, and it's not these template names up here, it's what we called it here. So whatever it says in here is what it must say here, because that's the squadron name. Now I could change that to name, and I'd have to change this, so it's just, once we've defined our squadrons, that's the name we'll use for them there. Okay, so 33 AD, these guys will fly GCI between 900 and 1200 knots. You can tweak that however you like, so we might, sorry, not knots, this is kilometers per hour, okay, good old Russian. Anyway, so kilometers per hour, and that's, fair enough, that's what they'll fly. Now, down here we've put the cap. What we're saying is for our dispatcher, we want to set squadron cap this time, and we're only going to get 14 AD to cap. We're going to establish a new zone called RCAP zone, we'll call it 1, and we'll give some altitudes that they want to fly, some speeds we want to fly in the cap, and all these parameters here are listed in the classes guide, and you can go in here and adjust these to your heart's content, but that's a good starting set. We'll use that just to have a look at that classes guide. Let's have a quick look. Right. We're talking about fuel thresholds. We're going to go back to that because this other stuff is more important. Here we go. Illustrates how caps are coded. So here it is here. And you can see when you get down here, it will tell you exactly what they all mean. Okay, so maximum altitude, minimum speed, and maximum patrol speed. minimum, maximum gauge speed, the type of altitude measurement. Righto, so if we go back into our script, what we've defined in our script is we have the minimum, max and altitudes, so 4,000, 8,000. We're going to get them a cap a bit higher than that. So let's make that 21. And we'll make the minimum 11, actually 12. And they're our cap speeds between 600 and 800, so they'll fly slowly, conserving fuel. And then there's the engaged speeds. Right. And now here's the cap interval. So the next one is set squadron cap interval, which again, we could go back in and read what they all are. Again, we've named it, how many we want airborne at any one time, and how often they will spawn a cap. So we always want a cap up, otherwise there'll be no cap there. So we'll keep it at 1 airborne, and after 600 seconds, if there's not one there, it'll spawn another one. All right, and down here we have set squadron cap racetrack. Now, this is actually getting them to, we don't have to have this, we can get them to fly around in circles inside the cap zone that we define, or we can get them to enter the zone and enter a racetrack pattern, which is a bit more realistic. And then we can orientate that to face the direction we want to go. So, again, all of this is in the classes guide, and it's worth reading. So I'm just going to leave it as is, and we can have a look at what they do once they get airborne. All right, so we've established our GCI. We've established what squadron's going to fly cap for us, which is 14 AD, and then we can set a couple of parameters for our squadron that we want them to utilize. So the things that I like are default grouping, default overhead, and I find the AI and airbase bases in DCS terrible. It just they get caught taxiing, and if that happens, it becomes a real problem. So if we dive back into our mission editor, I think we'll just get these guys to start in the air. So and despawn in the air. So there's a method for doing that, which is called the switch is set default takeoff in air and to set default landing near airbase. And by using those two switches, whenever it calls a new cap, they'll just spawn above the airbase and take off. And if when they come in, they'll come in at high speed and despawn over the top of the field. Now, I find in a server environment, that's probably the best way to do it. If you don't do anything, they will start up and taxi out, take off, and they'll return and land, taxi in, shut down, despawn. So that's the default, but we'll have a look at just adding a couple of these switches, but definitely default grouping 2, because I don't see too many single ship caps out there. So that'll always, I want it to spawn all the time with 2, and I'm going to add these switches in for takeoff in the air, and also I want it to set a default overhead of 1. So for every unit they detect, they'll just dispatch at least 1 aircraft. But in this case, they're going to dispatch 2. So if there's 2 units, they're going to dispatch 4. So we can set that to a half, and basically if we're flying a 2-ship, they'll only send out a single flight to get us. That's probably not a bad balancing thing. So I've grabbed some of that code, and we're going to chuck that into our script. And the reason I've done this after we've defined the squadrons is because you could set this for squadrons. So set default squadron settings, and each squadron could have a different way of doing things, and that's again in the documents. But I actually want the dispatcher to use this as its default. So I will take that over now and put that into our script, and I'll show you where I put it. Righto, let's expand that just so you can see what we're doing. Oh, it's as big as it gets, right? Now where I put this is you've got to put it after you define the dispatcher, because if you put it before, it doesn't know what you're talking about, because this is where we just define this dispatcher in line 10. So we've got to put it after there. So I normally put it after the border, just because I keep the border in there. So we'll add it in here, and we're going to call this section dispatcher defaults. Okay. Righto. Once again, air to dispatcher red, which is what we've defined. Set default takeoff in air. Set default landing near airbase. And to set default grouping 2. And we said we're going to balance it a bit. So let's call this 0.5. And that way, one unit will we'll get half a unit, which means 1 unit. In this case, it will be a group of 2, rather than having you and your wingman encounter 4. Probably more realistic leaving it to 0 or just not including this at all, but I find this balances the mission quite nicely. Alright, so we've got some dispatcher defaults configured, GCI CAP configured, Squadrons configured, our GCI configured, and our CAP configured. Now, we don't really have to do a lot there, except go back to the editor and define a zone and start this. So let's add a dispatcher start in, because we'll forget that otherwise, and it won't run, because nothing's going to happen until we start our dispatcher. Right, and it's as simple as just calling your air dispatcher red there, and type the capital S start, brackets closed. Okay, there we go. So we've got our script. Let's save that, and let's go in, because we haven't defined that zone, our cap zone where we want them to cap, which is called RCAP zone 1. Okay, so let's go into the mission editor and do that and load our script in. So RCAP zone 1. Now for this, you just use a normal zone, and we don't want them capping over rotor, but we want them close enough to rotor where they can duck in and engage. So we'll put them about here, and so that will be a zone. That'll be a cap zone. Make it a bit bigger. Make it 20. There you go. And we decided it had to be called RCAP zone 1. Okay, RCAP zone 1, coded red. Alrighty, so our cap flight is going to come out of Tinian, and it's going to cap somewhere in here and fly a racetrack pattern in the parameters we set. Now, you'd try and align the parameters with maximum time in the cap pattern looking in the direction of threat, and you can easily do that in the script where you defined the racetrack pattern. We're not going to bother with that, because we want to get this thing to run. In the interest of brevity, let's just move on. Now we've got to get our script in there. Now, how confident are we that this script's going to run? So I'm pretty confident that it'll run. I think we've done everything right. We've defined everything. Where we loaded our airboss assert load, I'm going to clone that, cut down on messing around, and I'm going to call it load GCI cap. Okay, and I don't want them loading at the same time because it just loads up your system, and at 10 seconds it'll load, and we want to asset load it, and we knew that our script was called Moose Lessons GCI.lua. So Moose Lessons, all I have to change in here is change the airboss to GCI. Eventually you'll work out ways to keeping this really simple, but there is a space there. Okay, Moose Lessons GCI, asset loaded, and we'll save that. Alright, so 10 seconds into the mission, the dispatcher will be running. It should put a cap up, and then it'll be monitoring for threats crossing the ADIS, and will pop a GCI flight to engage if the cap can't get there for whatever reason, or it's quicker when it detects you for the GCI to engage you. Alright, let's quickly run that and see if it works. And I also have my DCS log ready for just in case it doesn't. So we'll fly that mission. Now obviously this is a very simple GCI cap. We've defined one cap, we've defined 2 squadrons to GCI. You can set up a whole zone here where you've got multiple caps. You can have your carriers capping with bar caps set up in all the places you need them. It's super flexible, super easy to do, and creates a really dynamic environment. All right, let's go back to spectators, and we should see our cap flight get airborne. Speed it up a bit. 5 times. There they go. So there's our group of 2 Jeffs just departed Tinian and heading down to their cap zone to fly cap. So there's a really basic dispatcher. Now we can do air-to-ground dispatching, cargo dispatching, and it's all in the classes guide, and the same process that we just followed to do it. Now if they get shot down, they'll spawn some more to come and cap, and it will, the entire time your mission is going on, they'll be dynamically doing it. So I hopefully found that interesting and useful, and hopefully it really gets you into using Moose in your missions. Thanks for watching.